Judge Sarah Netburn has just handed the SEC yet another slap in the face. This one much overdue. I'm going to tell you about the decision that Judge Netburn just handed the SEC. This is breaking news because she denied the SEC's motion to keep the Hinman emails hidden, keep them private, keep them away from the public eye and from Ripple. That's no longer going to happen. In this video, I'm going to talk about what this decision by Judge Netburn will mean for Ripple in this case versus the SEC. Will the SEC get to appeal it? We're going to talk about these emails. We're going to talk about timeframes and some of the responses that Judge Netburn had in her response that a lot of XRP holders, that people in the YouTube and Twitter world have been saying for a long time now. And it looks like Judge Netburn has finally been able to say it. And on this video, I'm also going to talk about what some of the markets are doing because Bitcoin has been taking a bloodbath recently. So I'm going to talk about what that could mean for the rest of the crypto market. Hey everyone, my name is Randy and welcome back to the Late Night Grind. Right now on this channel, we are talking about Ripple versus the SEC case, as well as other cryptocurrency news, investment markets, and personal finance. So if any or all these topics interest you, make sure you hit that subscribe button and join the Late Night Grind community. And if you're feeling generous, I'd appreciate it if you do three things. Smash the thumbs up button, watch this video to the end, and check out my Patreon, link in the description below. All right guys, let's jump into it. So let's go ahead and jump into the breaking news because the last decision that Judge Netburn has just handed down was a big fat denied to the SEC. Now what the SEC had done was file a motion because what they wanted to do was keep the emails surrounding Bill Hinman's speech and all of these 63 different emails and everybody who was discussing it and what they actually had to say about it and keep it protected. So actually, back in January, Judge Netburn said the SEC needs to produce these emails, and that was huge for the case. But of course, the SEC said, well, hang on. These emails and all these discussions about the Bill Hinman speech, well, see, we can't actually give those up. We can't let the public see that. We can't let Ripple see that because, see, these are SEC discussions. These are what we use to, come up with new laws and new regulations. It's not actually Bill Hinman's opinion. This is actually more of the work that's being done by the SEC. So it needs to stay hidden. Well, they filed that motion and of course Ripple objected, but nonetheless, Judge Sarah Netburn has taken her time to decide, but that decision was that the SEC doesn't get to hide them, that those emails have to come out. And so the SEC is going to be forced to share those emails. Well, are they really? Because if you're following this story on Twitter or some of the others, you're going to hear a lot of people talking about all the appeals that the SEC are going to do, which they're probably going to do. So let's talk about what's next. Jeremy Hogan and James Filan on Twitter were talking about the appeal process, how long it could take, and if it would even go through at all. So what this means for a time frame perspective is that the SEC now has 14 days to appeal to Judge Torres, who is the other judge residing over this case. Judge Netburn denied this, so they have 14 days to take this to Judge Torres. And then after that 14 days, Ripple has 14 days to reply with some of their objections that will also go to Judge Torres. Now, what would happen is that's basically a full month before she would be fully briefed and have everything she needs to make a decision on it, which of course it's not going to happen in one day. It would probably take a couple of weeks. Hopefully not much longer. But then again, the last time Judge Torres had to make a decision, she sent a big fat denied to the SEC in one day. So we'll have to see. Now, obviously, there are some things other than that. Some people are talking about the Second Circuit Court of Appeals that they could actually go through if none of this would actually be taken up, as well as something called an appellate court appeal process. However, from Jeremy Hogan and from James Filan talking about this, it doesn't look like it would probably get that far because there's a lot of hurdles that the SEC would actually have to jump through and have it accepted for those courts to even take up that appeal. So yes, it may take some more time to get through this, possibly another month, possibly another 2 months to get through this process, but from what they are talking about, it doesn't look like it would be likely that an appeal would actually be successful. So at one point or another, we are going to get to see all of the emails, who was involved in talking about it, who was involved in these discussions, possibly writing drafts, possibly discussing XRP and how it relates to Ethereum, because as we know, this speech was largely to do with Bitcoin and Ethereum. Didn't necessarily mention XRP, but as we all know, there's a lot more to this story than just Ethereum getting its free pass. And I wanted to give a big shout out to James Filan on Twitter for actually going through the paperwork in this decision and pulling out some of Judge Netburn's responses. because some of what she is saying is some of the stuff that we've been saying on this channel and on other channels covering this Ripple case for well over a year now. And it's now to the point where she can actually say it. So James Filan pulled out some of Judge Nepern's responses. This is from Judge Sarah Nepern in her response to the SEC, her denial of their motion to keep those Hinman emails protected. The SEC has identified no intervening change or controlling law or any other controlling decisions unaddressed by the court's January 13th, 2022 order. In other words, the SEC hasn't brought any other reasons as to why she should change her mind about her original January 13th decision. She also said the SEC's assertion that the speech was intended to communicate corporation finance's approach to regulating digital assets offerings is inconsistent with the SEC's and Hinman's previous position that the speech was intended to and did reflect his personal views. In other words, Bill Hinman and the SEC previously stated that this speech was his opinion. This was not the SEC's discussions. This is not the SEC discussing regulation, and these are things that needed to be hidden because the SEC's previous position was that this was his opinion only. Well, this is what's coming back to bite them in the butt. She also said the SEC seeks to have it both ways. Thank you. This is what John Deaton has been saying for close to a year now. This is what a lot of us YouTubers and Twitter sleuths that have been following this case have been pointing out for a long time. That the SEC wants to say it was his opinion, and then on the other hand say, no, this is SEC regulation discussion. The SEC seeks to have it both ways, but the speech was either intended to reflect agency policy or it was not. Having insisted that it reflected Hinman's personal views, the SEC cannot now reject its own position. They can't flip-flop their position halfway through a court case because it looks like they're losing. And then James went on to say that the SEC has 14 days to file their objection, then Ripple has 14 days, and of course, we're going to have to wait for Judge Torres, if that actually gets that far, for her to say, nope, you have to produce these emails to the SEC and then see if they go through any other appeal process. But nonetheless, it looks like we are finally going to get to see these Hinman emails. It's just going to take a little while longer. And I know XRP holders and Ripple fans love to hear that, but it's just part of the process. This was a very big win. This is breaking news coming through. And when you combine this on top of the emails that the Empower Oversight Committee just released the other day of the SEC's Ethics Committee emailing Bill Hinman and all of their back and forth, that does not look good for the SEC. And you have all these other places talking about the conflict of interest that Bill Hinman what looks like he was under when he was filing this case against Ripple, getting talked about by more and more media outlets. Now we got finance feeds talking about it. Of course, we have Forbes that had written an article about it. The Daily Hodl. There's more crypto sites and more mainstream media sites talking about this specific issue regarding Bill Hinman and the speech and the lawsuit versus Ripple. So that just came down. It's huge news for Ripple, and I expect the price of XRP to tank because of it. No, I'm only kidding. XRP is following Bitcoin right now, and Bitcoin, of course, took a little bit of a bloodbath. Mainly because that's just what the charts determined it was going to do. If you follow me on Twitter, you saw some of my chart tweets that said it's probably going to hit 39,300, and then it did. And then it actually hit 39,252, I believe, was the low point. So I was really close before it actually rebounded a couple hours ago. So where are we from here? Well, we're going to have to follow Bitcoin and see. It could be choppy for the next couple of weeks, and XRP is just going to follow suit. Even though this was a really big piece of news for Ripple, even Ripple itself has been having some big news in terms of its partners expanding even further. There was some big news with Tranglo, which Ripple owns 40% of, expanding their coverage and doing more remittances using the on-demand liquidity system that Ripple has set up, using, of course, XRP. But in the meantime, if you want to follow along with these cryptocurrency markets, you want to follow along with this Ripple versus the SEC case, including this breaking news, then you're going to want to make sure you subscribe to the Late Night Grind community. And once again, I really want to thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of this video, for smashing that thumbs up button. And if you would, go ahead and check out my Patreon. A link is in the description below, along with all the other links, things I talk about on this video. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. And as always, I'll see you guys on the next video.